How we doing, everybody? Good to see you. Dr. Gary Huber, and I cannot wait for today. It's going to be awesome. I am with the Mold Whisperer. That's what I call him. This is Chuck Billingsley. I call him that because you're gonna see in the next 20, 30 minutes, he's got an incredible brain for finding mold. I have a lot of patients, and I want you to, if you're watching this, it's probably because you may think you have mold, or you've been told you have mold. We treat a lot of biotoxin illness in our office. So biotoxin, what the heck is that? If you've ever gotten stung by a bee, the bee injected biotoxin. We know that snakes have venom, that's a biotoxin. We know that certain animals. But mold is an animal, and it grows in our homes, and it's everywhere. And some people are very susceptible to it. There's certain genes we can look at, and we'll talk more about the medical components. But a lot of people, if you have migraine headaches, if you have gut issues, if you have mood issues, you're told you have migraines or you have IBS. And sometimes mold is at the heart of why that's there. So I'm going to let Chuck wow you with his understanding of mold. I have had a number of patients discover why they felt sick because he came into their home and found mold. So welcome, Chuck.
Thank you.
Happy to have you. And I want you to just, there's so much stuff in that brain of yours, I want you to just blow it all into that camera. But I want to start with the fact that we're outside and speak to the fact that mold's natural. It's in nature. It's all around us.
Correct. It has to be here. I mean, if mold wasn't here, we would have dead, decaying plants miles high. It's part of the whole part of nature. The issue being is that mold is everywhere, but it should not be in high levels inside your house, especially the mold spores. It comes in through windows, through when you're walking in and out of the house. So many different ways that it can come in through the structure of your home.
We have several dogs. They don't ever bring any mold in the house, do they?
No, of course not.
No, of course not.
They definitely do. But the main thing is that we always look at is moisture intrusions that can actually happen outside the house. There's certain things, landscape, there's siding in the home, roof issues that you have to your house, drainage issues to the house. These are one of the things that I definitely look at because that could be potential of mold growth happening inside your house due to moisture.
And this is going to be key because I met Chuck through a patient of mine. Kim, if you're watching this, thank you very much. But I met Chuck and I actually invited him out to do a mold inspection. I didn't tell him who I was or what I was. I just said I want my house inspected. Yeah. He didn't know it at the time, but it was a job interview essentially. Yeah. And I was overly impressed with what I was able to find. So I have him come to my house. I'm a pretty smart guy. I know about mold. And I'm thinking, my house is clean. So Chuck found a few areas in the house. It wasn't huge, but he found stuff that I didn't even know was there. So now, fast forward, what's it been, a year, more than a year?
Yeah,
time flies.
Yeah.
And he comes out to my house today and I say, well, let's do this video, let's go outside, and boom, within 2 minutes you're going, oh, we got a problem there, we might have a problem there. So the reason I tell you that is every patient that I ask that has headaches or gut issues or whatever problem you're having, oftentimes if I start thinking you might have mold, I'll ask, is there any chance there's any mold in your basement? Oh, no, there's no chance. I'm telling you, it could be there. And so you don't know if you don't look. And this man's going to help us identify some things to look for as you walk around your property, all right? So let's go ahead and dig right in. So like he's already said, it's fall and there's leaves and they're wet, that's mold. If you have mulch, that's mold. And we're walking around the house and he saw that brick is a little discolored under that window. Tell him what you're seeing there.
Pretty much when you're seeing certain tall tale signs, you're looking for moisture intrusion. I'm looking at, one, you have a food source, because when you're dealing with mold, you're actually dealing with an animal. It has to feed off something that was alive at one time, but it also has to be activated by moisture. When I'm looking for signs of staining, certain type of moss growth, that is an actual fungus. It might not be toxic to you, but it is a sign of moisture. When I see this, pinpoints, well, we need to do further inspection. Can it be actually penetrating inside the home? One of the biggest signs that I see in a lot of my inspections is your landscape. Your landscape has to slope away from the house. With not happening,
and this doesn't do it real well, right? And you pointed to the fact that my roof line, that's called a hipped gable, and it doesn't have a gutter.
Correct.
And so the water comes right off that, splashes down here, splashes onto the brick, which is fine, but then the landscaping needs to move away from the house, and it doesn't. You can actually see this is higher than that point, and so the moisture can actually stay kind of trapped or contained in that area. And you said something to me earlier, you said there's actually wicking in cement.
Correct.
That moisture outside, you think, well, that's outside my house, that's not a problem, but it can actually wick through the cement and provide humidity to the indoors, which now we have a problem.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Also in shaded areas, if you ever look at a nice shaded area, it doesn't have a chance for the sun to dry these areas out.
This area is always in shade. That's why we have hostas here. We can't grow anything else other than these lovely weeds. All right, it's fall. My landscape's a mess. Give me a break. I'm busy. So this is one area that I found very quickly, and then we came walking down this way, and it's obscured from view in general. I'm gonna let Jordan get in here and try to get a shot of it, but within a nanosecond, he picked up on that drain.
You come on in. You can actually see where the soil is going away from the foundation itself. So what that's allowing is a lot of the heavy rain from the roof coming down, puddling up, and staying against the foundation.
And the drain coming off the gutter isn't directly matched up
Attached.
with the drain pipe.
Correct.
There could be a little splatter and splash that's not ideal. So I need to get my builder out here and get that corrected. Okay? So again, landscape, a little high, a little low near the house.
Correct.
We're wicking that direction. Same thing here, it's wicking back toward the house, not away. We got a water feature that could be dripping a little bit.
Main thing is always with the hoses, because you'll never know if your hose is leaking after you do. I see a lot of that all the time against the house. Can be leaking into around the foundation side, so that's something also to keep an eye on.
And this is not a small task, because to really make it slope away, we've got to really shave a couple of inches of turf or dirt away from these plants.
A lot of homes do have like French drains going around, but again, it's one of those you just don't know if it's always working all the time. So
Yeah.
like I said, the best is a visual through the outside to make sure that everything is sloping away from the home.
You said earlier to me that the vegetation against the wall, the vegetation against the patio isn't a big deal, not a problem.
No,
typically.
not
okay.
True. The problem when you run into is actually when it starts growing against your house itself. The enzymes in the plant can start breaking down the materials of the mortar in the mix. If you have wood siding, anything of that nature.
We've got some ivy over here we're going to go show you. And Chuck was telling me earlier that that ivy, it's beautiful, it's attached to the wall. You know, you see that on old homes, but that ivy, as you said, can begin to erupt, or not erupt, but destroy some of the mortar.
Correct.
Okay.
This is another little shaded area. I see this in a lot of homes, again, when you have the foundation wall that's coming out. You also have the drainage coming in. This one is actually okay because it's going to be going away from the home. You can see that also in the ground, you can see some of the moss growing. So that's allowing a lot of moisture that you can tell right off the bat that it's holding within the soil itself.
Yeah, and this never dries out. This is always in the shade, and so we know that. That's why you see so many hostas out here, because we can't grow anything that needs sunlight. Okay. So again, I'm busy reading and bringing you folks content. I don't have time to come out here and weed, so give me a break on my landscape. But you were talking about some of these entry points in a typical home where your cable, electric, and so forth go in, that these can be sites where stuff can enter.
that's definitely where moisture can enter here. I see a lot around, again, you can see where, I'm assuming that's the phone line, where some of the caulking is breaking away.
So
there,
these kind of areas?
down low here.
Okay.
Definitely those are just, it's yearly to check. Always go around the house.
So yearly check those portals and make
in,
sure they're sealed
and it's a simple fix.
All right.
Around also your central air, these lines is usually, this looks pretty good, but a lot of times I do see openings that is happening there.
Okay.
And again, running down can penetrate inside the wall.
Okay.
Especially if you have a finished basement, because that is a hidden issue that you'll never be able to tell if moisture is getting behind the drywall.
Yeah, because that's a finished basement on the other side of that wall, and unless we see a change in the color or the texture of the drywall, you could have a ton of mold back there. You've told me horror stories about that.
Yeah.
And never know. You have a particular instrument you use to see that. You do some thermal imaging.
Yes, I do thermal imaging, and what that detects is temperature difference. And whenever I see something like that pop up, I'll go into it and do a little bit more of an aggressive inspection. Moisture meters I'll go through. Sometimes I actually have to penetrate the wall and do a wall cavity test to see if there is potential mold behind that wall. But again, you have to understand mold is everywhere. There's certain molds that we call marker molds that carry certain toxins that should not be inside a home. And that's what we look for all the time. And again, that's the biggest issue.
But you can tell, because I always think about that as a homeowner. well, gosh, any one of these walls could have mold,
Correct.
but your use of the thermal imaging increases the odds that you'll pick it up.
Yeah, it
so
helps
they
me
don't just
find
go
it.
poking
Definitely.
holes randomly.
Definitely. And again, a lot of the newer structures being so airtight, you have to remember back in the 70s, that's when energy conservation came into play.
Yeah.
And that's when houses become so tight, but also that's when a lot of the subdivisions started popping up and poor construction. And with all these combined with it, sometimes you get tons of high humidity inside the home.
Yeah.
Openings inside the house, foundation issues.
Yeah. Is that Tyvek that we always see on homes that are going up, is that a good thing or a bad thing? It's a barrier, right?
To me, it's good. It just depends on when they put it on.
Okay.
Is the wood wet when they put it on, or do they actually put it on? I'm finding a lot of homes, especially the back side of your house, is like, ooh, we don't have enough Tyvek to put around. They'll never see it. Let's get the wall up.
Okay.
I've ran into that a couple instances too. So a lot of the issues that I run into is actually just poor construction.
So if you're building a home, do your daily inspection,
Yeah.
make sure your builder's doing what he's supposed to do, putting up that Tyvek.
Exactly. Most
Interesting.
definitely. Most definitely.
Talk to me about the ivy. We have a little bit of ivy back here. My wife and I love it. We've only had it in here a year or two. It's just starting to grow. You had mentioned that can have an impact on the wall.
Yes, most definitely. It's the enzymes that the plants produce. You can start breaking down the mix in the mortar. Again, they're snakes. Issues. I'm scared to death of snakes. I see that in crawl spaces. They crawl right up the ivy. But other than that, it's usually the enzyme. It's not a big issue that I've seen during my career, but it's something that is brought out because I'm a huge ivy fan
Well,
myself.
it's interesting because we love the ivy, and I've heard that from you in the past. So we'll let it grow like it is just a little bit, and then I go, oh, I probably should tear it down. I'll tear it down. We try to keep it on the ground, and then the next year it grows up. So we're always coming out here and kind of fighting it.
Lattice fence. I'm looking at mine.
Put a lattice.
Going up the lattice
All
itself.
right. So that's interesting. You found another. We have this kind of cloistered courtyard where the retaining wall is.
Correct.
And once again, you pointed out that this could be a hotbed for problems.
Most definitely.
'Cause
Just
that's
like
a
on the other
finished-
side.
That's a finished basement wall on the other side of this.
Correct. And just you can see where the drainage would coming off of your deck above. Definitely it's going against the foundation. You also have the slope that's leaning towards the foundation too.
You know what? It doesn't look like I have a lot of margin though when you look at the cement because you don't want to take the dirt up to your brick.
Correct.
So I don't have a lot of margin to work with here. I almost have to scrape out an inch or two of dirt to create a grade, don't I?
But again, if you fix the main source, if you put an angle off of that pipe where it's draining or totally eliminate it
Okay.
and have it come into this side of the
Gotcha.
drain, then you're fine here.
So I actually helped build that wall, and because of all the pressure behind it, the base of it's like 3 feet, and then it goes to the top where at the very top it's maybe 1.5 to 2 foot. And there is a ton of gravel behind there.
Yeah.
So I know my builder, and he helped me make a very, and it looks like it's a great wicking for water going that direction.
Perfect.
I never really see a whole lot of water coming out of there. It's like it's there so that water has an escape route, but I don't see much coming out of it.
Yes.
So
But are you out here every time it rains?
no, I'm not. I'm
So
inside.
It's better just to put the 90 on. I always look at things as worst case scenario.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
especially when you're dealing with mold, dealing
Yeah.
with water intrusion, worst case scenario, just divert it away from the foundation.
Very good, very good. So, I want to wrap up, but I want to go through some action steps you can take right now. I want to go through, all right, so you got mold or you don't have mold. What does it feel like? Because nobody thinks they have mold, and a lot of people do. So let's talk about some of the physicality of this. The way that I met Chuck, and I refer patients to Chuck to get their homes inspected, because think about your neurologic system and your immune system and your gut. Remember, the gut is 70% of your immune system, and it and the brain are absolutely tied together. When you're breathing in these endotoxins, you're living in your beautiful home, but there's mold and it gets in the AC, and people go, I've heard this, yeah, I got mold in the basement, I can see it, but we don't go in the basement very often. Okay, but your HVAC system is sucking that air in and blowing it through your home, and it's just circulating, right? It's just
most definitely.
so, putting a HEPA filter in your home, we're going to talk about some of the tools, but how do people feel? So gut, brain. So I feel foggy headed, I can't focus, my memory is poor, my sleep is disturbed, my headaches are such that I have trouble focusing and functioning at work. I have gut issues, I have diarrhea, or I have just, my bowels just don't feel good, my immune system is weakened. We found out that we had a little bit of mold, and interestingly, when you found that mold, it was right under my son's bedroom. I don't know if that, Beth goes, that's the reason. I don't know if that's the reason, but he always, of everybody in the house, he gets colds and flus more. Every time I turn around, he's snorting and sniffling and has got a cold. we clean that up, his symptoms were less frequent. So those are some of the symptoms. Other things, musculoskeletal, muscle pain, joint pain, I feel weak, my stamina is poor. You have to remember, this is an endotoxin. It gets in your body and it is toxic to your endocrine system, your joints, your brain, your gut. It can be very pervasive. People report blurred vision. We actually do a VCS test, a visual contrast test in our office. And we can get pretty good reliance if you have an endotoxin exposure, because that test will often turn it up. Okay, so recognize if you're dealing with IBS or migraines or immune issues or any of this stuff, joint pain, it could be mold biotoxin in the background and you just haven't picked up on it. All right,
Yep.
So that becomes very, very important. Let's talk about some of the tools that we use. You want to speak to this little guy right here?
Yes, the hydrometer.
Okay.
This is one of the main tools that I recommend through the house. Central located, get a couple on different floors. I've noticed through the years that women are more sensitive to temperatures, smells, so on and so forth.
Yes, they are, because they're delicate flowers and we love you.
Yes.
Yeah.
A lot of times, if you look at that daily, you'll pretty much be able to tell. You'll sense it.
You can look at that number and notice how you feel.
You'll know what it is.
I want to point out one thing. This is just from my own personal experience. By the way, I have no financial ties to anything talked about today. The filters, none of this. I'm just giving this out as information. I went online, I went on Amazon, and I bought 2 hygrometers. One was $10 and one was $50. And guess what? They both work the same.
Yep,
And I compared them side by side.
Yep.
There wasn't any difference.
Yep.
So I wouldn't spend $50, I'd spend $10.
Yep.
We have one upstairs and we have one downstairs, and in fact, our dehumidifiers, most dehumidifiers now will have one built in. And the dehumidifier goes for what, $100, $120
$100, yeah.
for a good one?
Yeah.
So it's not a terrible expense. Talk about what you told me to get, and that I love that we have, the Pro Health IQ Air.
Yes.
Okay, it's IQ Air. Talk
Yes.
about that filter.
One thing that I do mention on this is filtration. That's the most important thing to have in your home. Some of these things, ozone, ionizers, the UV lights, they can work what they say, whether they're going to kill the mold spore or going to stop the growth that can happen. The thing is that a mold spore, again, live, dead, or dormant, still can carry a toxin to it. So it's filtration. So I'm a firm believer on filtration. The IQ Air system itself, again, is something that I actually stumbled across during testing time when I did do a post-test after a remediation company, and it should have failed. By all measures and everything I saw, it should have failed. The one thing it didn't fail. And again, when I was testing air quality and I did a little bit more research, found out they had an IQ Air system, and it was actually the whole house system that was on. It was during the winter time.
I came over here because this filter, it's got a remote control. It's really kind of cool. And it's running right now. And that's the biggest thing I wanted to share. I tell patients all the time, you can run this sucker all night long. Put it in your bedroom. If you've got allergy issues, I got patients that just have environmental allergens. Put it in your bedroom, run it all night long. So it has different speed settings, 1 to 6. Right now it's at 1. And I can't remember the manufacturer's guidelines, but even at a 1, it'll recirculate all the air in the room once an hour or even more.
Yes.
But that's at a setting of 1. You can't even hear it. Let's go, and it got a remote control. I'm going to go to 2 and 3. And yes, there's a little more air movement. But when you set this thing, when I first got it at a 3 or a 4, I think it recirculates all the air in the room 5 or 6 times in an hour.
Yes.
That is huge. And the other big thing is, everybody can go and get a HEPA filter. I can go to Walmart and get a HEPA filter. Talk about the filters and how small it can filtrate, because I think I read 0.003 microns,
yes.
That's what you need to do to get rid of mold.
Yes, most
right?
definitely. Some of the smallest molds is Aspergillus, actually.
Okay.
One thing about the IQ Air, if you look at a lot of the other air filtration systems they got tabletops. Gravity is part of human nature, so you get a lot of stuff down in your carpet. Your carpet holds everything.
Yeah.
This is the area that takes all the dirty air to it. This is where all the clean air comes out. Actually, when I checked this out before, when I first started really getting into it, I used to have a particulate counter. 0 particulates come out of the top. Huge, huge improvement on air quality.
Okay.
When you said about changing the air quality or changing the air actually 4 to 5 times, 6 times per hour, during a remediation, as doing a demo, that is their goal, is to change the air 4 to 6 times an hour during the whole remediation. And these units are huge, the size of washing machines.
Well,
So.
and this sucker, I mean, it's not real heavy and it's on wheels. So we'll run it in the bedroom at night, but then I'll put it in the middle of the living room because I can just wheel it out to the living room because it's not heavy. And it'll clean 1,200 square feet,
Yep.
right?
Most
I mean,
definitely.
okay. So, I mean, it cleans a good amount of area, 4 or 5 rooms, depending on the size of your home.
Right.
So-
and I've had even a couple of my clients said they got the IQ Air and it wasn't really too happy with them. The one thing I always tell them is that where's the location? They put it right by their bed. Well, it's like having a picnic. You don't have your bug zapper over top of your picnic table. You
Right.
have it away, so it's actually drawing away
Gotcha.
from certain areas. So a
Gotcha.
good central location is perfect
Okay.
for these.
Anyhow, again, we don't sell these. We don't make any money off them, but
No.
it's a good product. That's about $800 for that sucker,
Yeah.
right? Not cheap.
No.
But the filters, when they get full, the device lets you know, and you can replace them. We've had these at least a couple of years, and based on how many hours you can run the fan,
Right.
we estimated these are going to last anywhere from 3 to 5 years, depending on how often you run them. So it can vary, but again, when you look at the overall cost versus the length of time you're getting benefit, it's fairly inexpensive. So Chuck Billingsley, he will come to your home and he will do an inspection for $89. That is darn cheap. I've known Chuck for a few years now, and you've been through a couple of different models. His current model for $89 will come to your house, and I'll tell you what's valuable about this to me. The experience that he has, he'll look at your home and he'll tell you, what I love about what you've done for my patients is you'll tell them, hey, it's low, medium, or high.
Correct.
I've had you tell my patients, yeah, you got a mold problem, but it's not that big a deal. And some of this you can clean up yourself and it's not a big deal. Yeah. Everybody's afraid of somebody coming in and telling them it's going to be a $10,000 cleanup.
Correct.
And you have been wonderful about helping my patients save money. At least get the experienced eyeball on your house and see if you have a problem. If it's there, you want to treat it. And if you need to treat it, you're going to give them a good recommendation. But it's only $89 to bring you into my house and get an idea from an expert if I've got an issue or not.
Correct.
Right?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. And then you've got a lot of companies you work with that you have vetted that they do good work, and you're going to come back and you're going to check their work.
Yes.
Right? And that's what's really key. So again, the name of your company there, Chuck, what did you... Thorough Check.
Thorough Check. Some say Thorough Chuck, but Thorough Check.
Thorough Chuck come in and do a home inspection. This is a lot more common than a lot of people believe. I was really excited to do this because I have a really great answer for mold issues. I lecture to physicians every week. I have phone calls with people from coast to coast, integrative docs, and they want to know what to do with mold. And I said, well, I'm sorry you don't live in Cincinnati because I got an expert. You got to find the right guy to fix that problem. If you do have mold, there are things we can do medically to pull it out. There are binders, and we're not here to talk about that today. But there are things that I can give you to pull endotoxins out of your system. But the number one rule, if you go look up Richie Shoemaker's work, he's a doctor who's known for his work in the area of mold. The number one rule is get away from the mold, right?
Yep.
So if you ever said, oh, I went on vacation for 2 weeks and I felt awesome, and then I came home and felt like crap again,
Yep.
you probably have mold at home, and when you went away from it, you felt better, and when you came home and breathed it in, you were sick again. That's a common symptom.
Yep.
So it's a very common occurrence. Like I said, 50% of all the structures in America, they estimate, have had water damage or have some risk of mold engagement. And so just don't be one of those people that has it and doesn't identify it, all right? I think I'm out of information. I know you've got more to share, but Chris, are there any questions that we want to hit?
Absolutely. So, as regarding mold specifically, does everybody react the same, whether it be the elderly, a 30-year-old, or a 10-year-old?
Okay. Let me take that.
Yeah, sure.
So it can be very different in different people. We'll have a husband and wife in the same home, and she's sick and he's not. There's a gene about 24% of the population have. If you have this specific gene, it's an HLA gene. It means your immune system can't see the endotoxin. So Chuck and I both walk into a moldy building. Let's say I have that bad gene. We both feel crappy. We both get a headache. But we leave the building, and he just exhales and gets rid of the endotoxin because his immune system can do that. If I have that HLA gene, my immune system can't see the endotoxin, so over time it just builds and builds and builds and builds. And so I become mold toxic. And even if I can get some of it out and I feel better, if I go to a moldy hotel or a moldy room, I get sick easy and often, all right? So yes, you need to check for that gene to see if you're mold susceptible. Do all kids react the same? These endotoxins are immune modulators. They will weaken your immune system and cause all kind of bizarre symptoms. And so depending on the status of your immune system, depending on how healthy your gut is, how healthy your diet is, and do you have a strong immune system to begin with, or have you done things or have issues like allergens that have already altered or weakened your immune response? That can be another element that elevates your adverse reaction to mold. So there can be a great difference. Old versus young, again, we're just talking about immune issue. Young kids, 1, 2, 3 years of age, their immune system isn't mature.
Correct.
So they're going to be more reactive. You have got to show that picture. Chris, you got to put up that picture of the tub toys, the kitty tub toys.
Yeah.
Talk to that. So to finish my point, if you're young or old or immune compromised, you can have an adverse reaction. Tell them about the tub toys.
Yeah, I actually came across this on the internet, and it's sort of dawned on me to where moisture is the big cause of mold. The toys itself, moisture gets inside, they actually cut them open, full of mold. I do not know what type, but again, it's something you just don't want your kid chewing on in the first place.
You got pictures. Chris is going to put them up,
Yeah,
but these are like
yes.
little rubber duckies, and you cut them in half, and you think my kid's sucking on this and chewing on this and playing with this,
most definitely.
and that far away on the inside of that thing is just nastiness.
Yeah.
So again, it can be there. And is that the reason your kid has colic? Is that the reason your kid doesn't sleep well? We don't know. But it can be out there. Okay.
Once again, it's like one thing. When I deal with air quality, you could have a little bit here, a little bit there, creating one air quality issue.
Yeah.
It might just not be one small area of mold that you have.
Right.
So that's one thing you have to keep in mind as well.
All right, Chris.
Remedies. What is something you can do to solve the problem without coming to see you?
When treating the human bodies, we will put people on binders and different things like chlorella or charcoal. Cholestyramine is a common one. So there are different things that we'll use to pull the toxins out of you. But another question that I often hear is, well, how do I remedy my home? Can I treat it myself, or do I need to call in a company to do that? That's where you can be really helpful, because you're going to give them guidance. If you think they can manage that themselves,
Oh yeah, most definitely.
You're gonna
Most
tell them.
definitely. And that's a lot of phone calls that I do get, because I do ask a lot of questions, and so a lot of times they just send me pictures, and I can pretty much walk them through. If it's something that does raise concern, then I have to get some eyeballs on it.
you do something that I can't even believe. If somebody just emails you out of the blue with a picture, you'll engage with them and tell them what you
most
think.
definitely.
No
Most
charge.
definitely.
It's a good guy. So if I have a question, I have a corner in my home and I don't know, I can contact you, email you that picture,
Yes.
and you'll at least give some insight. Do you
yeah,
think it's a
most
problem
definitely.
or not a problem?
Most definitely.
All right.
Most definitely.
Great guy. Good guy. All right, Chris.
Great question. I'm out of questions.
You're out of questions.
But,
Out of questions.
I'm still thinking, and thankfully it's not live.
Okay. There was a third one on that card, I thought.
Yeah, you covered it.
Oh, okay. All
You
right.
covered it, which
Cool.
was immune system in kids.
Gotcha.
And we touch base on the cost that usually because I always get what's the average cost doing remediation in a home. We sort of touch base on
Let's
that
hit that.
too.
Yep.
Right? Okay. Again, if you're watching this and you're concerned, if you have any pictures, send them to Chuck, get an idea. If you have any question at all, give his office a call and get him in your home for $89 and get an inspection, see what you're dealing with. Get a dehumidifier in your basement. Get a $10 hygrometer and get your hydration, the humidity in your house, I say below 50, Chuck would say below 60, but I'm overbearing.
Yeah.
These are action steps you can take. But what if they need remediation? Give them an idea, because people are nervous that people that don't know what they are doing are going to come into their house, and we feel
Correct.
like we don't have control and we're going to get taken.
Correct.
What does it cost to remediate my problems? It can be a broad spectrum.
A wide spectrum depending on the extent of the damage. That's why I'm always big on third-party testing firms. There's a couple companies out there that do some great work. I'm just not saying I'm the only one out there doing it. The one thing I do stress with a third party, make sure you have contact with the laboratory that they send it to. There is information. They should send you their report plus what the laboratory actually sends them. Remediation wise, get estimates. Get as many estimates as possible. The way I do mine with my clients, I have 3 companies that know what I expect. I'm the strictest hygienist on the planet. They'll be the first ones to tell you.
And you come back and check their work.
Yes, most definitely. It's to the point that actually the companies will hire me to come in as a consult to make sure they pass the post test.
Okay.
Third-party testing firms, you have to make sure that they are able to go through a thorough inspection to where they first have to pass the visual. No visible signs of mold, no dust or debris.
Yeah.
Make sure that the remediation company, what they charge you for, is getting done. A lot of times they're going to charge you for HEPA vacuuming the whole square footage of the house.
Wow.
Through the visual, they missed a lot of areas, but you're paying for them to clean it.
Yeah.
That is one thing that I definitely make sure.
Okay.
The background that I have in it is through the remediation world.
Okay.
Remediation companies itself, get as many estimates. Have them all there at the same time. Let them all look at each other.
Let them know they're being competed with.
Definitely.
Okay.
There is an industry standard. It's called the IICRC S520.
Oh, of course it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody knows
Everybody
that.
remember that
Yeah,
right off the top of their head.
IRCs.
Let's say it again.
20.
IICRC S520. That is industry standard protocol. It's going to give you negative pressure containment.
That's how they do the work
Exactly.
they do. Yeah.
And then it gets down into the great detail. A lot of the estimates are confusing. Again, that is something all of my
I
clients
find the
send to me.
reporting confusing.
Yes, but that's where we come through,
Right.
explain, and talk to. You told me a couple times with the reports that sent
Don't
out.
send me
Don't
20
send
pages.
it out there.
Send me one
I
page.
simplified it. I simplified it to where it's just plain and simple, black and white.
Yeah.
I'm not a big scientific guy. I don't throw out the big $1.50 words to let everybody show how smart I am, because I'm not. But I know mold. So again,
you're smart.
it's common sense.
Yeah.
Bottom line is common sense.
Okay.
Estimates, as many estimates as possible.
Yep.
Get the price, because there's no guidelines on pricing. You'll get one for $1,000 all the way up to $10,000, $20,000 doing the same work. That's why it's important.
And that's
to have
where, you know
third-party.
what, I don't want to filter through that. I don't want to have to navigate those waters, because I don't know what the hell I'm doing. And that's why I like having you as a quarterback over the process to say, this sounds reasonable. Yes, I've seen 1,000 projects and this one seems like it's on target.
Correct.
That's where I draw a comfort level, having you involved in any kind of a mold project.
All right. That is one of the special things about my company. Again, it's me.
That's you.
Yeah, it's me. But that's what I pinpoint. I look at the estimates, make sure the industry standard is being followed, make sure they're going to do the steps all the way through.
All right. Well, man, it's been an honor having you here.
Awesome.
I
Great.
hope
Thank
we
you.
get a lot of good information out there that people feel like they have tools and you can defend yourself and educate yourself about what mold is and isn't.
Yes.
And hopefully you're able to reach out and help some folks clean up their environment. It makes a big difference. I know it's made a big difference for us and for my son and for my family. So I appreciate everything you've done for me and for my patients. I'm truly a fan. All right. Thanks, guys. Hope this is helpful. If you have any questions, send them in. We'll answer them post-production, whatever that means. Right, Chris? All right. Take care. Bye now.
Bye.